back on the record.
Lieutenant Lara, before we move on to this December 17 memo, let me see if I can kind of summarize what you had done through the December 17th memo. It sounds like you had looked at the vehicle, is that correct? Yourself, correct?
The patrol unit?
Officer Carina's vehicle.
Yes, sir.
And you had actually visited some of the sites yourself, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that you had asked Officer Joe Hernandez, who's a accident reconstruction specialist, I guess is the word, in the department to look into the accident.
I asked him to assist me, yes.
Okay. You had instructed Sergeant Torres to report your concerns or the concerns about the accident to the chief
Directly to the chief, yes, sir.
on Monday, which would have been I think December the 9th. The 8th.
The 9th, sir.
Your IDC says Friday was December 5th. Saturday was December 6th. Sunday was the 7th. I guess Monday would have been the 8th.
Let's see, the 3rd.
I'm just going by a reference on your IDC of
Yes, sir.
1217 in the middle of the page that says on Friday, December 5th, 2008, when you were on regular duty with Sergeant Torres. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we use that as a reference point. Monday would have been the 8th, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is that when you expected Torres was going to talk to the chief?
Yes, sir.
All right.
He was told to go to the chief's
By
office.
you?
Yes, sir.
Right. Had you ordered Sergeant De La Rosa to do anything at that point in time?
No, sir. I think he was off. I believe Sergeant De La Rosa was off for that weekend.
Okay, which weekend? The weekend of 5, 6, 7 of December?
Yes, and I think he was even out of town
Okay.
on that weekend.
Let me direct your attention to some Chronos reports that might help us from that. Write that down. In notebook number 3, under tab 2, there are some Chronos reports. You recognize these, correct? You know what a Chronos report is, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we've got them for several officers. I'm going to tab over, these are in alphabetical order. Let's tab over to the one involving Officer De La Rosa. Okay. Showing you a Chronos report. It says at the bottom right-hand corner, it says tab 1, page 0029, Chronos De La Rosa, and it has the week or the time period of 12/1/08 through 12/11/08, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you know how to read these, right?
Yes.
Okay, so this one shows that on 12/3, Officer De La Rosa came in at 1,400 hours.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, where are we? I'm not following.
It is tab 2, sir.
Tab 2
On notebook 3,
of notebook 3.
yes. And there's a set of Chronos reports in alpha order by officer,
I see them.
and Sergeant De La Rosa's are included in that. One is for the July time period, that's the first one, and then the second one is for December. So, you indicated that you thought he was out on vacation leave during this time. This Cronus report reflects that he came in on the 3rd at 1400 hours. That would be 2 o'clock, correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right, and then he clocked out at 23:30 on that day, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then on 12/4, same thing. He was at work on Thursday in that afternoon shift,
Yes, sir.
or evening shift, I believe, call
Yes.
it, right? And then on 12, there's no reference to 12/5 here. Is that because he just is off that day?
The Friday and Saturday would have been his days off, the 4th and the 5th, I'm sorry, the 5th and the 6th.
The 5th and the 6th would have
Yes.
been off? And that's why
Fridays.
they're not shown on this Chronos report?
Days off, yes, sir.
Okay, so he's off of work on those 2 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then on the 7th, he would have been scheduled to work,
Yes,
as well as the 8th and the 9th, is that right?
that's correct.
Okay, and in this Chronos report, it reflects that VL, is that vacation leave?
Vacation leave.
Okay, so just to kind of get our chronology straight here, he worked on the 3rd, that's when the fleet accident was reported, right?
Yes, sir.
Then he worked the next day, correct?
Yes, sir.
The Thursday, and then he was off 2 days,
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday, and then he was out for 3 days on vacation leave.
Yes, sir.
So he's not around during that time period,
No, sir.
and that's what you recall.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and does this Chronos report, kind of tie that down for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would offer the Chronos report.
I think it's already in it.
Oh, great.
If it's not, we have no objection.
If not, it'll be entered.
I think the only objection we had to that, Mr. Hearing Examiner, was the first page of,
The issue
yeah,
of the,
and so, with our understanding of the objection, then,
correct, my notes, they were admitted except for the July 3rd incident, but I think it's under the same conditions that we've been using.
yes.
That's what my notes reflect.
Okay. So the question that I had put you was whether or not you had at any point ordered Sergeant De La Rosa to do any further investigation
No,
as
sir.
far as this fleet accident.
No, sir.
During this time period, did you actually see the crash report that Sergeant De La Rosa prepared?
I went to records. I don't remember if it was on, might have been Saturday. I think by Saturday I had a copy of it.
Okay. Did you recognize it if you saw it?
Yes, sir.
All right. In this notebook number 1 at tab 4, do you recognize that as the crash report?
Yes.
Now, the original is actually a 1-page report that's got 2 sides on it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, for purposes of the exhibit, it's just 2 pages. And is that the crash report that you had seen?
Yes, sir.
And is there anything about that report that caught your attention or caused you any concern?
I usually review accident reports. I like to find whatever I possibly can before we send it off. I sort of find it a challenge to mess around with accident reports. I don't know why that.
Okay, so what
And-
did you do with regard to
I
this one?
usually go through the accident reports and I make little marks. This one doesn't have little marks, so that means that's before I actually went over it. This one I did not mark. I can make little marks on the sides and just to indicate that this where I found something wrong with it, this where I, but this report, once again, I looked at the diagram and the way it's been reported that the accident happened, I still feel that it's not consistent with the damage, one.
Okay. The diagram is the diagram on the
On the second page.
Okay.
The call was never radio dispatched either at the bottom.
Okay, where,
That call was never radio dispatched.
on page 1, are you referring
Yes.
to the bottom box?
Yes, basically saying how we notified of the crash. It was never dispatched.
Okay, didn't you say earlier that you had overheard some traffic over the communications about it?
Yes, but communication never dispatched them out there, as indicated on the report.
Okay. So when it says radio dispatch, what does that mean to you?
That means we were sent out there by communications.
Okay.
We
So,
were dispatched by communications.
okay, so the way this is worded here is, it does not jibe with what you knew,
Not at all, sir.
okay? What else about the report caught your attention?
I noticed that hit and run up at the top, it's been reported as a hit and run. That little blank hit and run is blank. It's a hit and run.
Okay, at the very top, there's a very narrow kind of set of places where you can check different things. That's on the first page, is that right?
Right at the top, but it never indicates a hit and run as it was reported to me by phone.
Okay. So at the top of the page, you notice that the hit and run was not checked off.
That's correct.
Okay, what else?
It also shows that vehicle one, which we, at that point, it was being reported was a hit and run vehicle. It shows the altered vehicle height. We don't even know what the vehicle involved is. How do we know it's altered or not?
Where is that, sir? What are you?
Unit number 1.
Okay,
We don't even, supposedly we don't know at the time of the report what vehicle is involved, yet we know it's not altered. It just doesn't.
okay, what are you referring to the boxes at the very, the far right-hand side?
Yes, sir. For unit number 1.
Okay, where it says altered, yes, vehicle height, no, altered vehicle height, what does that mean?
If the vehicle is a regular vehicle, would be a normal vehicle that you purchase from a dealership. It's not altered. If you get a kit to, let's say, big tires, lift the vehicle, to me that's altered. It's been modified. It's not the original way it came.
Okay, you're trying like. that it's
That's
been
the way I
customized-
interpret that.
That it's been customized somehow?
Yes.
Okay,
And if we're saying it's a hit and run accident, how do we know it's not altered? I wouldn't know how to explain that.
okay,
The damage on the vehicle 1, the damage rating,
where is that?
same unit number 1 at the middle of the page on the right, vehicle damage for number 1.
Okay,
If the vehicle is backing up into the, supposedly here, the vehicle 2, which is a patrol unit, if the vehicle is backing up, I don't see how it can be a 1 o'clock, which is before the back left, the 1 o'clock.
okay, can you explain what this entry means? It doesn't mean anything to me. Can you explain to us how to
Okay.
read it?
First of all,
looks like a 1 BL.
One is the direction of force coming into a vehicle. In other words, the force of the impact coming into a vehicle, that's what that one is before the back left. That BL is the back left portion of the vehicle, which I don't have a problem there. On the diagram, it does show the back left. But the direction of force is that unit one is backing up into the patrol car. In my opinion, that direction of force is probably gonna be a 6 or around that area. If unit one is actually backing and striking the other unit, it would be a 6.
What's a 6 as opposed to?
6
a 1?
o'clock is basically if you picture a clock, the top will be the 12 o'clock area, the bottom will be the 6 o'clock.
Okay,
And the direction of force is the force coming into the unit. In this case, it's backing up, so the direction of force on the back would be, I would have said closer to a 6 o'clock. 1 o'clock, I don't see how the 1 o'clock.
okay, in other words, assuming that the diagram is correct, okay, are you saying that the vehicle damage rating designation that is assigned to it is inconsistent with that?
That's correct.
Okay,
Even though we operate our accidents investigations through the Texas Department Transportation under the CR 100 booklet, which is a 2008 edition that was revised in March of 2008. Those are the instructions to officers for reporting accidents or crashes. They call them crash
Okay.
reports. Under that, that's where we get all those direction of force. Even though the book says it's optional, he didn't have to. But our department has chosen to use that. It's done.
that's something you use in your department?
Yes, but it's optional. But the department has chosen to do that. Every report that I have reviewed, we require that in our department.
Okay,
But it's optional through the Texas Department of Transportation.
okay, so what does the BL refer to? That,
That's the back left, which would be we usually refer to the back left, maybe the bumper on the left side of the back bumper,
All right.
back left.
and what about the other dash one?
It's damage rating through we have another booklet, which is I believe it's a CR 80 booklet that shows us diagrams of damage ratings, gives us little illustrations. If the car looks this way, rated, it has numbers. In this case, back left, that means there should be minimal damage to that hit and run vehicle on the back right. Very minor damage.
And what does the 1 mean? That it's minor damage?
The one to the extreme right means minor damage
Okay.
on the,
And
I would say
What
the,
would be more serious damage, a higher number?
yes, it can go up to 5, 6. That would be frame damage, all that.
Okay, that's using this other index that
Yes.
that you all are aware of and are trained to use?
Yes, sir.
Okay, would Sergeant De La Rosa be familiar with that?
We should be very familiar, yes.
All right. So the fact that there's an entry here on the vehicle damage rating, that you found that unusual?
The 1 o'clock, the one before the back left,
Right.
that's just, I don't see how a 1 o'clock would be on the, more towards coming from an o'clock to the left of 12 o'clock, that would be a 1 o'clock. In any direction, 1 o'clock would be, I'm sorry, I'm talking about 11, my mistake. It would be on the right,
On the right side?
right beyond the 12 o'clock coming from this direction. I don't see how the 1 o'clock applies at all in this diagram.
In this diagram?
Right.
All right. Yeah, and you're looking at, it's like you're looking at the vehicle from the top, right, with the nose of the vehicle at 12 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
And then the clock numbers surrounding that.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about, right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. What else here?
The bottom part also, very bottom to the right. Very bottom says, is report complete? It indicates yes.
Where is that?
On the very bottom, the right-hand side.
Okay, it looks like he's got a signature there, is that right?
On the left, he has a signature. On the right, he has that little yes mark. Report complete. It shows a yes.
Okay, so what does that mean to you?
To me, it means the report is complete. But if it's a hit-and-run vehicle, I would say no, the report's not complete. Because later on, we might find out actually what happened. Then we supplement this report, and then we'll say it's complete.
Okay, so when you're looking at this report, it's being represented as being a complete report.
Yes.
And it's, okay, what else?
I don't see anything else, sir.
Okay, on the second page at the top, it says fled scene, do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, does this report, would it trigger an obligation to prepare a separate, hit-and-run report?
Yes, sir, that's, another report that's required when somebody fled the scene. They're required to remain there or give information.
Did you?
Under the Texas Transportation State of Texas Transportation Code, we're required under Section 550.024, we are required to make a report. And
Okay, did you look for that report?
yes, we did.
Did you find it?
No, sir.
Would you have expected such a report to have been made along with this crash report?
It should be automatically made when there's a hit-and-run accident reported.
Do you know whether it was ultimately done?
Yes, sir.
Who did it?
I instructed Sergeant Torres to make one.
Was the lack of that report also something that caught your attention? The absence of a hit-and-run report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me see that. Now, on this report, did this report involve any kind of a misconduct allegation? Either against Officer Carina or Officer De La Rosa?
You're referring to that?
Whether there was a misconduct allegation, you know, at play, as you're looking into this fleet accident.
Yes.
Well, was there, did you treat this report as a potential misconduct allegation against Officer Carina?
I don't understand that question.
Okay. Did at this point in time, did you believe that there was any kind of misconduct by either Officer Carina or Officer De La Rosa,
I felt by both,
based on what you had learned?
yes.
Was there, at this point, any kind of complaint or other that you generated or reported to the chief?
When we combined the other two, that we learned of, that we felt that were covered up, we sort of,
Combine them together?
yes.
Okay. Are you able to say, did Sergeant De La Rosa, with respect to this crash report, would he have had additional time to modify this report?
Leading, I'm gonna object to the leading. Council's given him the answer he wants.
Don't leave.
What is departmental policy regarding modification of a crash report once it's been reported as complete?
The way to modify a report is to get a copy of the report. If there's additional information, to complete the report. In this case, if it had been an incomplete report, if it had indicated no, later on he finds out information to complete the report, he has to indicate, on the top right, he has to indicate it's amended, supplemented. He has to indicate that little box there. He has to date it at the bottom, in the bottom right, with a new date, and then he has to fill in the corrected information, the correct information, and that one will be sent, will follow the original one, to show that the original has been supplemented.
In looking at this report, did you treat it as an open report or a completed report?
An open report,
Okay.
because
And what does that mean?
it means it was never completed. In my opinion, it was never complete.
Even though it's checked off as being complete?
Yes.
Did you take away the investigation regarding this accident from Sergeant De La Rosa?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And why is that?
Because like I said, by this point, I felt everything, there was a lot of cover-up, and I felt that he could not continue with this investigation, so I guess we can say I relieved him of this particular investigation,
And you gave it to who?
to Sergeant Torres.
And is the assignment of Hernandez part of that reassignment?
Yes, sir. At the time, I also asked for his assistance as far as I assigned Sergeant Torres to follow up on that hit-and-run accident, the portion of the offense report. He generated a report, and I assigned him also to get a statement from Karina on Sunday
Okay.
regarding what happened.
So you gave that to Sergeant Torres?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And Joe Hernandez, like I said, I asked for his assistance, and I needed to know from him what he felt about the whole thing, or what he could, if he agreed with the way it was, or he sort of questioned it the way I did.
Okay. Now, let's go over to your memo, your IDC now of January 9, 2009. Why did you do this IDC?
Which one? Back to,
Go back to the tab where your IDCs are. Tab 9, notebook 2.
dated,
January 9, 2008. What is this IDC about?
I hope I'm looking at the right one here.
Well, it should have a date of January 9, 2009, from you to the chief, subject Sergeant De La Rosa / Officer Karina Castaneda.
Okay. This one goes back to, when I typed up the IDC, I wasn't too sure of the exact dates. So, but I knew it happened somewhere around April or July. That's,
What had happened?
this IDC is sort of going back to when he reported to me the accident with a dumpster at Cazadores, 901 North
Okay.
Main.
And I want you to describe that report. Was that a phone call?
Yes, it was.
All right.
I, once again, didn't hear anything reported to communications. He called me by phone. He said that Officer Karina had, I don't remember the exact word he used, he struck, hit, but there was contact between the unit and a dumpster,
Okay.
okay? And my first question was, is there damage to the unit? Is there damage to anything?
All right.
Because that was, to me, automatically, there's damage, it's a fleet accident.
Okay. And if it's a fleet accident, what's supposed to happen?
Automatically, she should have called the officer that's involved in a fleet accident, should call the supervisor. That's the first thing, call the supervisor.
Right.
Contact communications. Contact communications, call the supervisor. Supervisor has to arrive. Photographs before the unit is moved. He has to send the driver to NTC, if there is a driver.
That's for the drug testing?
Yes.
All right.
And he has to submit an IDC as to what happened, if it is an accident.
Okay.
But at that point, when he reported it to me, he said it was, I told him that all accidents have to be reported. He said it was only a small amount of paint they had rubbed on the unit from the dumpster.
Did he
And-
tell you the color of the paint?
Yes, he said it was some green paint from the dumpster. And most of the city dumpsters, I think, are green.
All right.
And then he asked me if he had to make an accident report. I told him, if there's damage, you have to make an accident report. And if I remember correctly, he said something like, I used to hear this quite often, and I'm gonna say it, something like, "Come on, Lieutenant, it's nothing," like, I don't have anything out here. My reply was, once again, like I said, if there's damage, you are required to make an accident report. And then he added that it was only a small amount of paint that it could be easily wiped off.
Okay. So how did you respond to that?
I told him that if there's damage, we have to make an accident report. And that was it.
Okay. Well, did you tell him what to do beyond that?
No.
Did you make the scene or see the car yourself or do anything else?
No, sir. Never did.
Did you hear back from him at all later on?
No.
Have you been able to reconstruct more or less when this call would have come in? And I think that's what we have these phone logs for.
The call, when he called me,
Yes.
I believe I worked, if I remember correctly, I think I left early that day also. If I remember correctly, I think I checked the chronos and it showed me to work only about 4 hours. Because I had been working on preparing for the 4th of July. I was given the task of preparing for the parade, 4th of July, and I think the day or probably the day prior, I had worked about 12 hours, so I was only gonna work 4 hours to come.
At the time that you wrote this IDC, you indicate that you got this call sometime between April and July of 2008.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Did you know at the time that you wrote this IDC any more detail than that?
No, I couldn't remember the exact dates, but later on, I know it was, I think it was Thursday, July the 3rd.
Was there did there come a point in time when you were, well, strike that, let me put it this way. Who asked you to do this IDC of January 9th?
I was asked to do it through the OPR office.
Okay, that's the Office of Professional Responsibility?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. So, well, this was a response to a request from OPR.
Yes, sir.
And are you, did Officer De La Rosa mention to you that the vehicle had green paint on it?
Green paint?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
There's no question in your mind about that?
No, sir.
Now, in this IDC of the 9th, at the very last paragraph, you say, you recently learned that he had switched units with Officer Castaneda when this incident occurred.
That was reported by Officer Barajas to Sergeant Torres, who reported to me. I think it was that same day that we met at the mall.
Okay, so
On a Friday.
what you know about it, when you say I recently learned, what you learned was something that Torres told you, that he told you he had learned from another officer, Barajas.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what you're saying here is, you know, I heard it from Torres, who heard it from Barajas.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so whatever you knew about it, I mean, it's just based on whatever Torres told you.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And so was this all of the information that you had at that time regarding the Los Cazadores incident with Officer Carino?
Yes, sir.
Had you forgotten about that phone call after that? Did you put much more importance on it?
No, sir. I left it up to him to make that decision. He had damage or not on the unit. I never heard anything after that.
Right. And did you follow up with him at all about it?
No, sir, I did.
And when was the first time that it came up, that issue came up again for you?
When Sergeant Torres met with me, saying that he had talked to me, that was on a Friday before he reported the incident, on Monday to the chief. That's when I heard this came about it.
Is that when you recall this telephone call?
Yes.
We know today that Los Cazadores incident happened like in early July 3rd, I believe.
Yes, sir.
And this other incident happened in December. I mean, nothing happened that that you were aware of involving Los Cazadores between July and December.
No, sir.
Is that right? Okay. The next IDC is one from you, February 17, 2009, reporting for duty. Does this relate back to the weekend or the time, the 2 days that the Sergeant de la Rosa was scheduled for duty?
Yes, sir.
And does this IDC relate to just what happened in connection with that scheduling?
Yes, sir.
It appears, strike that. Did it surprise you that there was some confusion about whether he was supposed to be at work or not?
Yes, sir.
Why is that?
Because I didn't have any idea he was gonna be out. I had actually assigned him to be the in charge on Sunday. So when I was called by Sergeant Torres, I didn't have an answer for him. Where is he? I don't know.
So Sergeant Torres called you after he didn't show up for work?
Yes.
Under usual procedures, would you be the person that would be contacted about making a modification to the schedule?
Yes, sir.
So
By the sergeants, yes.
by the sergeants, yes.
The officers, the sergeants,
Okay, so the officers work through the sergeants?
yes, sir.
Okay, and the sergeants work through you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Had Sergeant De La Rosa talked to you at all about making a modification to his schedule?
Not that I remember, no, sir.
Is there anybody else that would have authorized him to make a modification to his schedule?
I had instructed my sergeants that I was the one that would approve whatever days they needed off.
Okay?
I would be the one, not one sergeant to the other sergeant. So yes, it would have been me.
And did you, at any point, had you approved this change in the schedule?
No, sir.
I'll pass the witness.
Ross.
Yes, sir. Lieutenant. Lieutenant, I'm John Curtis. We met before.
Yes, sir.
On several occasions. Let me start by asking you a couple of questions. I want to ask you about the December 3rd, the whole push guard thing and all that.
Yes, sir.
Tell me again, you were contacted by Sergeant De La Rosa from Luby's, correct? He called you from Luby's?
Yes, sir.
And what was the discussion? Did he bring up to you that there were security cameras there at Luby's?
No, sir. When he first called me, and it was sort of, he was reporting that it possibly happened at Luby's. And then I think he mentioned it possibly, or maybe at Regional, where Karina had stopped also and left her car unattended.
Okay,
I told him to look for cameras at Luby's.
okay. But he said there could be security cameras there at Luby's? He said
No,
that
I
to-
told him to look for security cameras, see if we could determine if it happened at Luby's or if it happened somewhere else. I instructed him to look for cameras.
Right, I understand that, and that's in your IDC, but I thought you testified that he said something to you, because he says he told you the damage was discovered when they were walking out of Luby's, right? That's in your IDC of 1217, right? The second and third line.
Yes, sir, that's what it says on there.
Yeah, it says Sergeant De La Rosa told me the damage was discovered when they both walked out of Luby's cafeteria located, and it gives the address. And so he was calling you on his cell phone from Luby's?
He was calling me by phone. I don't know if it was
Okay,
his cell phone or, but
Okay.
he called me by phone.
okay. And he told you over the phone it was unknown if the accident occurred there at Luby's while they were inside or maybe at the hospital?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And he told you the extent of the damage, and then the next sentence says you told Sergeant De La Rosa to check with Luby's personnel and also the hospital looking for security film footage, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, did he suggest that to you, that, hey, I think Luby's has got cameras, or you, how did that go about?
After I told him to check around for cameras, he reported, I think he called me again shortly after and told me that yes, that Lewis did have cameras and it didn't happen there.
Okay. Okay. Well, okay, I want to ask you, the global question here is, if he knows that there are security cameras there, I mean, I think the gist of your testimony is that this is some kind of cover-up or whitewash has been the term used, right? I mean, you think that Sergeant De La Rosa was somehow or another covering up or trying to help this officer, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, if that's the case, why would he do that at Luby's? Why wouldn't they go out on, some street in South Laredo, South McAllen, find a fire hydrant or something, put the car there, and then call in and say, hey, she struck this object? Wouldn't that be the better cover-up?
Luby's parking lot has the parking spaces angled to where if a vehicle backs up, it could cause some damage to another car backing up in the front of I went out there and looked at the parking lot, the way the stripes are. Yes, a car can back up into another car. Now, if a person is trying to not report the correct thing, I would think a person would look for a place that would at least appear that it could happen the way that it's been reported. In my opinion, that's what happened. They went out there and maybe talked it over, decided, yes, it could happen, not realizing at that point there were cameras out there until I told them to look for cameras, and cameras are discovered. Whoop, it didn't happen here.
Okay,
So now,
Lieutenant, is that logical? Aren't there customers and people working in Luby's? Would you pull up a car that had been damaged where there are lots of people walking in and out? We've seen the video. Have you seen the Luby's video?
no, I haven't, sir.
Okay, well, assume that there are people walking in and out of Luby's that could have seen that car. If someone was engaged in a cover-up, why would they pull up a dented vehicle and park it with the front towards the windows of Luby's with people walking by who could easily see that damage? That's not logical if you're engaged in a cover-up, is it?
No, sir. I haven't seen the video. I don't know if there's any people coming out or any parked vehicles. I have not looked at the video. I I know Luby's closes around that time, so I don't think too many people would be there at that time. Like I said, I never looked at the video, I don't know. And yes, if it's not common for somebody who's trying to cover up something, well, what better way to cover up better, you know, making.
Lieutenant, we've already had the manager from Luby's come in and testify. And even if Sergeant De La Rosa didn't know coming in that there were security cameras, and you were the one that tells him first about it, why would he, why would he then go into, if this is a big cover-up, why would he then go in to the manager to try to obtain that tape or that DVD? That doesn't make logical sense if you're involved in a cover-up, does it?
Once I told him to look for cameras, I think he had to at least pretend or make an attempt to look at the video or obtain the video to say, yes, it didn't happen here. So maybe that's the reason why he went in there. And I don't know how long he was there. I don't know if he reviewed the whole footage of the time he was there. I don't know that.
Okay, after this phone conversation, you basically told him to start an investigation, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And he speculated that it might have been a hit-and-run accident, correct?
That's what they were reporting to me.
Well, that was his best guess at that time, correct?
If he wants to answer that, I would think so, but
Well, but that's what you say in your IDC, that he reported to you that it was a hit-and-run.
right, but I know that would be the most correct thing to do.
Okay, and he asked you about having her do a drug test, correct? An
Yes.
NTC?
Yes.
And your response was, I told him if Officer Castaneda was reporting a hit-and-run accident, that meant she was not operating the vehicle, therefore she was not required to report to NTC. So you were telling him there was no need for an NTC?
If she's not driving the vehicle, no.
Okay, based on the information that was given to you.
Correct.
Let me ask you, are you on duty at this point? You had already left, is that correct?
I don't really know if I had clocked out or I was fixing to clock out or I was on my way home. I don't really know. I cannot answer that. I know I left early because I think I had a meeting with the captain the following day, and I work my 40 hours a week, so if I had a meeting the following day with the captain, I have to come in early. So I usually flex my hours to where I'm at 40 hours a week.
Sure, and you're a supervisor 24 hours if necessary, correct? I mean, if something comes up that your subordinates are dealing with that they need assistance from you, you're a supervisor 24 hours a day as needed, and then you flex your time, right?
Not necessarily, sir. No, we're not on standby. If they call me and I have to answer a question, I answer the question, that's it. I'm not gonna claim additional hours or anything. No, I'm not on duty 24 hours. I'm not getting paid for 24 hours.
Okay,
I'm
well,
not on standby pay.
I understand. If Sergeant Torres testified that you weren't at work at this time, would that have been incorrect, his testimony?
If I don't know if I was on duty or clocked out, I don't think Sergeant Torres would really remember if I was or not. I think by the time I called Sergeant Torres, I might have been heading home or at home already. I don't really remember.
Okay, that's fine. I want to know. Now, farther down in your IDC, you state that you think at some point your communication center was confused, right?
Yes, sir.
And, you know, they were asking, whether it was a fleet accident, did they need to notify the NTC people?
They normally help out with that. If it's a fleet and we're gonna need them, they try to call for us, let us know more or less what time, to send the officer out there, or how long it's gonna take them to respond, or they usually try to help us with that.
Okay, so you heard that radio traffic.
Yes,
Okay, but you had previously told Sergeant De La Rosa that she wasn't required to report to NTC. I guess my question to you is, why didn't you take charge at that point? Why didn't you make a call to communications and say, hey, look, it's been dealt with, it's okay, we're handling it?
no, he was communicating with communications. They were not calling me, he was responding to
I understand
whatever
that.
they were asking.
I understand that, Lieutenant, but you said, I think our communications center was confused whether it was a fleet accident or not, because I heard them ask Sergeant De La Rosa if they needed to notify NTC personnel. At that point, as a superior officer, and you're kind of already monitoring the situation, why didn't you just step in and say, we've taken care of that matter, there's no need for NTC? You didn't feel the need to do that?
No, sir, I felt he was capable of handling that himself, sir.
Now, at what point did you talk to Sergeant Torres? It says later on in the evening, I called Sergeant Torres. Tell me why you did that.
Why?
Yes.
Well, first of all, Sergeant Torres, like we said earlier, he's the immediate supervisor of Officer Castañeda when this happened. I asked him if he had heard anything about it. He said no. I told him that I didn't believe what was being reported to me.
Did you communicate that disbelief to Sergeant De La Rosa?
No, I didn't.
Just to Sergeant Torres?
Yes.
Wouldn't it have been better for you to confront Sergeant De La Rosa and say, hey, I'm not buying this, what's the deal here?
I told him to try to figure out where it happened. I already told him to figure out once he told me that it was possibly hit and run. I told him to work on it, try to figure out where it happened.
But at the point you're calling Sergeant Torres, are you believing that Sergeant De La Rosa is already involved in some kind of whitewash or cover-up?
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you confront De La Rosa at that point?
I was heading home, and I didn't think it was necessary to do it right there. He was busy trying to make the accident report. I guess that's what he was doing.
Well, it sure looks like you're routing around him to Sergeant Torres. That you don't want to communicate with Eddie. You want to route around to Sergeant Torres to get him to start looking into this rather than confronting him if you believed at that point there was a
At that point, I just told Sergeant Torres to, I guess you want to say, keep his ears open, his eyes open, because I didn't believe the whole thing.
Okay, and at this point, you hadn't seen an accident report, correct?
Correct.
You hadn't even seen the car, correct?
Correct.
And you've already made an assumption that Sergeant De La Rosa is involved in a cover-up and he's protecting this officer, even though he's called you and said, hey, she's in an accident?
His voice, like I said earlier, his voice was not normal. He sounded bothered by something, nervous. He wasn't himself when he called me by phone.
So at this point, you think he's engaging in misconduct?
I don't believe him.
Do you think he's engaging in misconduct? You said you thought he
If
was...
he's reporting something that is not the way it is, yes.
All right, let me ask you about that. We're going to come back to this, but are you responsible if an officer misleads you and lies to you about facts, would you be accountable for that officer's deception?
Yes, sir.
You would be. So are you saying you're accountable for Sergeant De La Rosa's, what you perceive to be deception and cover-up?
I am responsible to report it, yes.
Okay. All right, assume with me the following. Assume an officer goes out on a call that another officer responds to. That officer doesn't see any damage on her vehicle. And then assume sometime after that that this officer damages her car in some sort of way. And then assume after she damages the vehicle, she reports it to the sergeant, and assume with me that she says, I don't know how it happened. Somebody must have struck my car. Now, is that sergeant receiving that information? Is that sergeant responsible for that, the deception that officer has presented to him?
That sergeant has to investigate and be at least what's been reported to that sergeant at least has to at least agree with what's been reported. If it doesn't look like it's possible, I think that sergeant has an obligation to ask for assistance to fully investigate it.
Okay, did that phone call from Sergeant De La Rosa to you from Luby's, is that a call for assistance?
No, it's just reporting to me.
Okay, but you take it upon yourself to tell him, well, start getting security videos and that kind of stuff. So you are assisting him at that point, right?
I am instructing him to determine what happened and yes, look around, cameras.
And did it ever cross your mind that maybe Officer Castaneda lied to Sergeant De La Rosa about how this damage occurred to her vehicle? We know now she has lied about it, don't we?
I don't know if she lied or they both lied, sir. I don't know.
Well, but it sounds like you have pretty quickly here made an assumption that Sergeant De La Rosa is involved in a cover-up.
I can probably elaborate on that, sir. As a supervisor and through officers, we all knew there was something going on between Sergeant De La Rosa and Officer Castaneda other than just supervisor, officer type business. In my opinion, there was something personal going on. And yes, that's one of the main reasons why I felt that Sergeant De La Rosa would cover up for Officer Castaneda.
Did you put that in any of your IDCs?
No, I didn't.
So you're telling us here that there's some motivation for Sergeant De La Rosa to throw away a 19-year career just to protect this officer. You made that assumption right away, almost immediately after he called you from Luby's.
No, I felt that as a supervisor, he had no, in my opinion, no business having a relationship with that officer. At least one occasion, I had asked him to. It was best for him not to continue, at least on one occasion.
Is this in any of your IDCs?
No, sir.
Now, you continue this investigation through the weekend, correct?
I will have Sunday and Monday. So, Saturday, yes,
Okay, and you received the crash report on the 4th, or it was presented to records? on the 4th?
records, yes, sir.
Okay, when did you first see it?
I think I got it on Saturday.
Okay, and is the report there in front of you, is that exactly how you received it? Is that how it looked when you received it?
I think so, because later on, I remember I asked Sergeant La Rosa to include, well, maybe not, because I told him to include the address of the, I know I told him to include something regarding the parking lot of Regional Hospital.
Okay,
And it might have been the name of the hospital to include it on his, another, and I think he did. So he
okay,
probably remembers better than I do what I told him to include up here on, where it says 101 is Ridge Road. And I think it was the name of the hospital. So if this one doesn't have the name of the hospital yet, this probably why he had submitted at first. But I know I asked him to include something up here, and he told me that was not necessary, but he still did it, I think.
okay. Lieutenant, wasn't there a yellow postum on it? Did you see a yellow postum that said pending diagram, Sergeant De La Rosa needs Lieutenant Laura's review and approval? Was there a yellow postum on it in the middle saying it needs your approval?
Normally that's the way they're left in records with a, if
Okay.
he feels it's not complete, yes.
Okay, if he feels it's not complete, he'll put a postum on here, and didn't it say needs Lieutenant Laura's review and approval?
If that's what you have there, yes. I know on records I saw it with a, I saw one with a yellow.
Okay, so he's advising anybody that looks at this that you still have to put your eyes on it, correct? You
Yes.
still have to look at it, you still have to approve it,
Yes,
okay? And is that an indication that the report is not complete?
yes,
Okay, and in fact, he says, pending diagram, that information still needed to be added to it,
yes.
is that correct? Now, I wanna ask you, look over in your documents.
The document that you were showing him.
Is the very first page of the, it's date stamped, tab 1, number 45, and it's in, let's see, volume 2, exhibit, I think it's exhibit 4, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, it's in the big binder, okay.
Hold it up and let me.
What is the, it's in the main IA
You have a copy of that?
I think it's in that big one. The binders we have, Mr. Arbitrator, do not have this postum that,
It has a clean copy.
tab number,
Tab 1, 45.
And but-
This is the full IA folder, that's my hearing exhibits. Drawn from this is the file from OPR,
All right,
okay? So this is the way OPR organized it. That's how I organized it so that I can keep track of things,
now where would I find it in what I've got here?
right here.
All right,
That's why you have this one.
all right.
This is a copy of what OPR generated, and this is what I had indicated I wanted to offer as the notebook.
this is not included in
These
in
are his
one?
documents.
Okay.
This is offered into evidence, which you
Okay.
objected to.
No, I never objected to the crash report. I object to, completeness. It's
Well-
not complete without that posting.
Well, we offered you the full IA folder, which has the documents, so any
Thank you.
indication
If
that
it's-
we left it out is objected to. The instrument is in this IA folder.
All right.
You can't read behind the posting, so you can't read the report. And you can't really read the posting for that.
I guess somebody threw it away.
Let's continue.
Thank you. Lieutenant,
Just answer the question.
I'm looking at your February 17th IDC and also your March 2nd IDC. And I noticed some little check marks in the left-hand margin. One check mark on the February 17th, and looks like 3 on the March 2nd IDC. You see those? Did you make those check marks?
March 2nd
And right in front of it, February 17th?
no, sir.
You didn't make those check marks?
No, sir.
Okay, because in talking to the guys, some of the guys say that that's kind of a habit of yours, but you didn't make those?
No, sir, those are too neat to be mine, sir. Those are the captain's. When I turn in my IDC to him, he goes over and those are the captain's check marks on it.
Okay, and that would be Captain Vela?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did Captain Vela look at this crash report at all, do you know?
I cannot really say he reviewed it or looked at it, but he had brought it to my attention many times that it had been pending too long in records. That it was pending for too long in records to take care of business, and I made it real clear to Captain Vela that I totally disagree with the accident report. With what's been reported, how can I approve with something that I had reason to believe was incorrect, totally incorrect? It was a false report in my opinion. I could never sign it, and I have yet to sign that report.
You have yet to sign it.
I've never signed it, it's still pending.
Okay. So is it your testimony that you made no marks at all on the crash report?
No, on the crash report, you asked me about the IDC, sir. Those are not my marks on the IDC.
Understood.
On the crash report, this one doesn't have any. So my copy doesn't have any.
Are you telling us that you did make marks on the original?
It's possible, but I would have to see it. I don't have a copy of that one.
Okay. Do we have the original somewhere?
Your original crash report?
It's probably still on record, sir. That report was,
I just have copies of these things.
Okay. What would you have marked up on this?
when I review a report, like I said earlier, I usually mark little marks, but they don't go like little check marks like the captains. They go little marks across saying, look at that line across, there's something incorrect there.
Okay.
I don't know what you're looking at, sir, but I don't have a copy of that one, I don't think.
Well, I'm looking at the same copy of a crash report you have. Did you make that mark on report complete? It looks like a line across like you just indicated to us.
No, sir.
You didn't make that?
No.
Okay. Now, let me ask you about the diagram on page 2. I think it was your testimony that well, tell me, on the face of the clock, what was on the face of the clock where you thought the damage occurred on the front of the vehicle? Did you say 6 o'clock?
For vehicle 1, that's backing up on the diagram, It shows damage in the back left, which would be the
Driver rear?
driver rear,
Yes, sir.
and it's probably gonna be the bumper area. And if it's moving, going into the other car, it's gonna be 6 o'clock. The direction of force coming into that unit 1 will be 6 o'clock, not 1 o'clock.
Okay, and if Hernandez, the accident reconstructionist says 10 o'clock, would that be wrong, in your opinion?
On unit 1,
Yes,
10 o'clock?
yes.
On unit 1, 10 o'clock, I really don't see how at 10 o'clock.
Okay, so you have a different opinion from Hernandez, and that's okay, right?
I don't have a problem with 10 o'clock on unit 2, that's fairly close.
Okay.
But in my opinion, not unit 1.
Okay. I guess what I'm getting at is, based on your experience, you think it's 6 o'clock, and based on his experience, he thinks it's 10 o'clock. Okay, y'all just have different conclusions. That doesn't make you wrong, does it?
I try to be as accurate as possible. I wouldn't know how he figures 10 o'clock though. Maybe there's something else that he knows that I don't know, but
Okay.
I don't really know that.
Okay. But neither one of you got written up for discipline for having a different conclusion from the other, did you?
No, sir, that, like I said earlier, the Texas Department of Transportation, that is optional. They don't require it. The city of McAllen, our police department has trained us to do it, but it's not required by the Texas Department of Transportation. Direction of force is not required.
Okay.
It is optional.
But my question was, neither one of you were disciplined for having a different opinion from the other.
No, sir, not yet.
Well, do you think it's coming?
I don't foresee it unless the chief knows something, but no.
Okay, we'll see if we can get you past 180 days. Now, I wanna go back to your first IDC there on 12/17, and the first question I have is about the date. Why did you wait so long to write this? Why'd you wait till the 17th?
By that time, the Office of Professional Responsibility took over the investigation, and I just want to let them know what I knew about the whole thing. Try to summarize it in this IDC for them.
Would it have been a better practice? You said you were off on the weekend, Sunday and Monday, is that right?
When I was on 2 to 10 shift, yes, sir, Sunday and Monday.
Would it have been better practice to the day you came in? Because y'all did some things on Saturday, right? You and Sergeant Torres went out and looked at the car.
Did many
You pulled, at some point, didn't you say you pulled her activity?
Yes, sir, it was Saturday
copy?
also.
Now, in questioning yesterday, Sergeant Torres was asked about Sergeant De La Rosa pulling her activity log, and he said something to the effect, well, why would he do that? What's the point of doing that? But you're telling us that you and Sergeant Torres did it also?
We did it, and I think Joe Hernandez might have done it unless we gave him a copy of it, but we did it just to figure out what routes she took possibly, we were looking for, like I said earlier, a fixed object, a fire hydrant, or anything that was damaged.
Sure.
That's why we had the activity report, to try to go over the route that, whatever call she answered, hit those general areas and see if we could find I was looking for the scene of the accident.
Sure, and that makes sense. Well, why would Sergeant Torres yesterday testify that that was not an appropriate thing for Sergeant De La Rosa to do? I mean, he was critical of Sergeant De La Rosa doing the very same thing that you and him did.
Well, I didn't know about Sergeant De La Rosa doing that, sir. I don't know what Sergeant Torres said yesterday. All I know is that we did it, and we went through the possible routes that she might have taken to answer calls. I don't know anything about De La Rosa.
Okay.
I don't know why Sergeant Torres would answer that, and I had no knowledge that Sergeant La Rosa had done it also, or
Okay.
I still,
How does Sergeant Torres get along with Sergeant De La Rosa? Is there some hostility between the two of them?
I don't, from what I see, I don't think they're best of friends, but we all have to work together regardless our personal feelings. We still have a job to accomplish, and that's our responsibility. I cannot say they're best of friends, and I don't know anything, if they're enemies or not. I don't know.
At some point after this, didn't Sergeant De La Rosa write up Sergeant Torres for his action or inaction in a pursuit?
Yes, he did.
And that was done sometime before this hearing, correct? Did any discipline come out of that, if you know?
No, sir. I believe I took over that investigation also, and I didn't conclude that Sergeant De La Rosa had done anything.
Okay. All right, now, on Friday, December 5th, it says you met up with Sergeant Torres at the mall, is that correct?
He called me and he said he had something important to talk to me about. Yes, we met up at the mall.
Okay, and you're sure it was that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because in testimony yesterday, we didn't hear any of this from either one of them. But by this time, you've already formed an opinion that maybe Sergeant De La Rosa is covering up for Officer Castaneda, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Officer Barajas tells you about these two prior accidents, correct?
No, sir. He never told me.
Well, okay, you hear it, well, let's call it triple hearsay through Sergeant Torres, right?
Yes, sir.
And you were aware that another sergeant, Sergeant Arenas, investigated the Spirits accident.
I wasn't aware until all this happened, sir, that they talked about another accident. I looked into it, and once again, we had information from officers that were working that day. Up to this point, I had no knowledge of that accident on 10th Street at the Spirits, Free Spirits. I didn't know about it.
Okay.
Never heard about it.
Okay, I understand, but by the time you write this, you know about it. Did you think Sergeant Arenas was also involved in this cover-up to protect Officer Castaneda?
No, sir, I don't. There were a lot of officers out there, a lot of witnesses, a lot of officers got involved. Sergeant Arenas got called to the scene. My understanding that he got called out there, and he made the decision, no accident, no damage, no injuries. There's nothing out here, so that was it. But
Okay,
no,
and we heard some testimony yesterday about that's kind of been your I guess direction to the officers, you know, no injury, no damage, no accident. Is that correct?
yes, sir.
And in fact, don't you say that a couple pages over on your discussion, the January 9th IDC, the fourth paragraph, he, being Sergeant De La Rosa, then asked me if it was a fleet accident. I told him that if there was any damage or injury, it would be a fleet accident. So the inverse of that is no injury, no damage, no accident, correct?
Yes, sir, and that I base that on the, once again, on that, instructions, for officers, instructions for officers to, to report the crash reports
Okay,
under the 2008 edition, which was, revised on March 2008, under section 2, page 2, which is general instructions to peace officers or officers. Number 6, it says that if a crash does not involve injury or property damage, and then it has, but is investigated, it is not necessary to submit a report to TechStop.
okay,
They don't want a blank report. They don't want something saying 0 damage, 0 injury.
right.
They don't need that.
Okay, so, was there any need for Sergeant Arenas to, and by the way, before I ask that question, what was your understanding of what happened out there at Spirits with Officer Castaneda's car?
Okay. That was the day of Hurricane Dolly. It was very gusty, it was very windy. We had alarms all over the city. My understanding, she responded to an alarm. She possibly didn't leave the car in park. She probably thought she had left it in park. It was probably in gear, and even though I believe Sergeant Torres, IDC reports that Baraja said the car went in reverse. I met with officers that were out there that day. They said, no, the car went forward. And it went from the Free Spirits, which is a little high area, across a parking lot. And it struck the column of a building next door, which is probably 120 North 10th. But the column it's a strong column, which I even doubt that it even hit the column. But the officer said it was resting on the column, the push bar of the car, or the front of the car, resting on the column. But there's about 4 or 5 feet of higher area before the column, so it's possible the tires hit the high area before the column actually struck. It might have rested upon the building. But according to the officers, nobody reported damage that I know of. Sergeant Arenas didn't report any damage. And once again, I apply, if there's no damage, no injury, I say we don't have an accident.
Okay, all right, well, so did Sergeant Arenas get in any trouble for not writing this up? Did you leave it up to him to write it up?
I didn't know about it, sir, until all this happened, that accident had occurred. I had no knowledge of that accident on July the 20, I don't really know what time it was. The workday was the 23rd. If it's after midnight, then we go to the 24th, but the
Correct.
chronos will show the 23rd. I don't know if it happened after midnight or not. I have no idea. But I didn't know about it.
Did he even call you?
No, sir, he
He
didn't.
didn't call you.
No, sir.
Sergeant De La Rosa called you about La Casadores, according to your,
Yes, he
your
did.
IDC.
Yes, he did.
So he even took an extra step, and you guys are thinking he's covering up, aren't you?
Yes.
And you left it up to him. You say in your January 9th, fourth paragraph, he asked me if it was a fleet accident, and you tell him your policy. He again asked me if it was a fleet accident. I told him that he was the one that was looking at it, investigating it, and would have to make a determination. That's pretty indecisive on your part as a supervisor, isn't it?
No, sir. He's been a supervisor long enough to make a decision, which is a simple accident. Do we have damage or don't we have damage?
Okay, but he called you. He didn't hide this. He called you, didn't he?
He called.
He called you and said, she's been in an accident. What do I need to do? And you say, it's up to you. You make the decision.
If there's damage, you make a report. If there's no damage, then
How's
There's
that a cover-up, Lieutenant? How is that a cover-up?
how is it a cover-up? Because later on, we learn from officers. Officer Barajas is reporting to Sergeant Torres that there was damage to a unit. And if he's telling me there's no damage other than a little bit of green paint that's rubbed off on the unit, like in this paper from a dumpster, there's a little bit of green paint, that's what he's reporting to me. There's no damage. Officer Baraja is saying, my understanding, he reported to Sergeant Torres that there was damage to the unit, other than a little bit of green paint, which rubs off easily on the car. He reported that what was under the unit could very easily be wiped off, and that was it. So did he report the truth to me? I don't know, based on Baraja's IDC or whatever he reported to Sergeant Torres.
Lieutenant, let's talk about the truth, because you said, in reference to the green paint, you said today there's no question in your mind that he said something to you about green paint. Is that right?
He said that was green paint.
Didn't you tell Sergeant Arenas that you couldn't remember if De La Rosa told you there was green paint on the vehicle? Didn't you tell Sergeant Arenas that?
No.
All right. So, in summary, about the two prior accidents that Castagnetta was involved in, Sergeant Arenas investigated spirits. He didn't call you about it, so you didn't know about it.
I didn't know anything about it, sir.
And Sergeant De La Rosa called you about La Casadores,
Yes, he called me.
and surprise, guess who's getting disciplined? The person that calls. So what's the message to people out there? Don't report it, right? You report it, you're gonna get in trouble. I mean, is the world flipped upside down in McAllen PD? Because he reported to you, his supervisor, what should I do, Lieutenant?
Right, but what was reported and what he actually had out there, I don't know if he was reporting the whole truth or not. I never went out there. I never saw the unit. He told me it was a little bit of green paint that could be easily wiped off, like clean my hands, and that's it.
I want to show you, if I could approach witness, please.
Yep.
May I get a reference on a document?
This is tab 4, bait stamp 32. Is that from 3 or from the main one?
The main.
The main book.
Tab 4, bait stamp 32.
Yes.
All right.
They have mine over there. IDC should be in the notebook. What is the date of that IDC from Barajas?
1509.
Yeah, it's in the notebooks.
I think I've seen that one.
So,
It's in the notebooks also.
okay.
Yeah.
Can you read that highlighted couple sentences into the record, please?
Yes, Barajas is reporting that the green paint would come off when, I guess, means him, when he scratched at it. He's saying he did not see any damage on the bumper. I think he meant bumper, other than the green paint.
And when did you go out to the restaurant Las Casadores? You said, was it Saturday, December the 6th?
That was one of the times I went out there, sir. I've been out there several times after that, just,
Okay, and what did you expect to find 5 or 6 months later?
The dumpster, what was, there was a dumpster mentioned out, the mention of the dumpster. I just wanted to make sure there was a dumpster out there where they were saying there was a dumpster. On the west side parking lot, yes, there's a dumpster out there. As a matter of fact, I went out there a couple of days ago, the dumpster has been replaced, they have one that's freshly painted out there.
Okay, well, that's great. Now, on December 7th, Sunday, I told Sergeant Torres to make every effort in getting video footage at the hospital. Hadn't Hernandez been assigned at this point to do the investigation?
Hernandez was assigned to do the accident investigation. And I had assigned Sergeant Torres to try to get footage of the video from the hospital.
To summarize about the push guard situation, you disagreed with Sergeant De La Rosa's conclusion that it was a hit and run. Is that correct?
There was, yes,
Okay. And because you and I guess the rest of management, all the way up to the chief, disagreed with his conclusion, and you thought he had some motivation to lie, he gets disciplined, is that right?
yes,
Okay. But yet, you and Hernandez can disagree on that diagram on the accident report. Nobody gets disciplined on that, right? You just have a disagreement about your opinions.
like I said, I don't foresee getting disciplined, and I don't,
Okay.
and we haven't been disciplined.
Is it possible that Officer Castaneda could have lied to Sergeant De La Rosa about what happened to her car? Is that possible?
I guess everything's possible, but I don't think it was, not very likely, no,
You don't think she lied to him?
no.
She lied to Internal Affairs. She lied to her own attorney initially about what happened, right? I mean, she came in here and told a completely different story, didn't she? I mean, you didn't hear
I
it,
don't know
but
what
you,
she
but
said.
you know she changed her story.
Well, I saw her here, and I don't really know what she said, but I know she was a young officer, a rookie officer, and I would say that we sometimes learn the hard way from experience. If she was told to do something, she would probably do it, following somebody's instructions.
Okay, but my question is, if it's possible that she could have lied to Sergeant De La Rosa.
Like I said, everything's possible, but I don't think so.
You don't think she lied?
No, sir.
When you go to IDC, do you testify under oath? I mean, not IDC, when you go to Internal Affairs or, you know, the OPR and give a statement, do you do that under oath?
A statement, you're
Yes.
talking about
Yes.
an IDC or,
When you're brought in to give a statement,
A
is it
statement?
under oath?
I would think so, never been there.
Okay. You get a Garrity warning, right?
Some people use it, I never use it. I just answer what they're asking, I don't find it necessary.
Well, you know what a Garrity warning is.
Yes,
And in that, you're advised that it will protect you. It can't be used against you in a later criminal proceeding unless you perjure yourself, right?
yes,
So if you lie under oath there, you could be prosecuted for perjury,
yes,
okay? And assume with me, we know from Officer Castaneda's testimony yesterday that she lied to Internal Affairs. And you're skeptical now that she could have lied to Sergeant De La Rosa?
like I said, everything's possible, but I don't think so. I personally don't think so.
All right, over the time period between, December 3rd, you start your investigation, working with Sergeant Torres and then, Hernandez, over that weekend, do you write any other documentation between then and this IDC on January the 9th?
I don't remember if I wrote anything else, sir. I don't read, no.
Okay.
If it's not in here, I don't think I did.
Mr. Curtis, it's 12 o'clock. How long would you anticipate more on Cross?
Maybe 10 minutes.
All right, go ahead.
And I will have some redirect,
And how long would you anticipate on that?
about 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
Got to try to work through this witness? Or you want to take lunch?
However you want, sir.
We should take lunch.
I'd like to finish before we break for lunch.
All right.
We
let's
could
see if
finish
do.
him and then
Okay,
take
all
break
right.
for lunch.
Okay. You testified that this January 9th document, you were asked by OPR to submit that, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you say that you were called by Sergeant De La Rosa sometime between April and July of '08, correct?
April or July, I don't know, the wording is April, sometime between April and July, but
All right. Did
April or July will be more appropriate, around April or July, not,
Okay, it says and. You reviewed the statement, didn't you,
yes, sir.
before you submitted it? You're saying now that's incorrect?
I'm saying that it's written and, maybe between April and July sometimes, but I knew it had to be one of those 2 months around that time period.
Okay. Do you know why they asked you for this statement on that particular date? Were you aware that Sergeant De La Rosa had been brought in 2 days before to give a statement?
I knew it had been called around that time, but I don't know exactly when or how many days before or after. I don't know, but I was told to
Okay.
give a statement.
And I notice in these documents that you produce phone records. Do they ask you to produce phone records on these dates to try to pin down when he called you?
I don't know about phone records for this particular thing. I know the phone records, we talked about them, but that was for the days, the 2 days that I could not account for him. I don't know about
understand.
phone records for this particular case. I don't know any of that.
I understand. Isn't it a fact, Lieutenant, that the sergeant was in the office that day when y'all spoke?
Oh, which sergeant, sir? I don't know. who
De
you're
La
referring-
Rosa.
And can you please repeat that question?
Was he in the office?
Which officer?
Was he in the office at PD, and that's when he spoke to you about this Los Casadores incident?
If I was aware he was in the office when he spoke to me, I don't understand you, sir.
Okay. If you don't know, is it your testimony that he called you on the phone rather than talk to you in person in the office?
He called me by phone, sir.
Okay. Now, isn't it true that at the time you gave the statement, management was still thinking the date of the Los Casadores incident was July 23rd during the hurricane?
I don't know about management, sir. I don't know anything about them saying it was a different date. I have no idea. All I know is that by this time we had determined the one on North 10th was during the hurricane, and I had investigated one personally involving Sergeant La Rosa, also the date of the hurricane. Cazadores, I have never heard before that they thought it was during the hurricane. I had never heard that before.
Okay, and as it turns out, well, strike that. Now, I want to ask you just a couple questions about the reporting for duty issue and your IDC on February 17th. The email that you sent, to the sergeants advising them of their schedule over the weekend. Let me find it. What is the time of that email?
It shows 1:36 p.m. on Friday, the 6th, February the 6th, sir.
All right, and were you aware that Sergeant De La Rosa was testifying at that time in an arbitration or participating in an arbitration hearing?
I was there on Friday with him, sir.
Well, okay, so you were aware that he was in an arbitration that afternoon?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and would he have been involved in that at the time you sent this email? If you know?
I have no idea, sir, if he was still there or not.
Well, you said you were there with him.
We were there. I don't remember what time we were
Okay,
dismissed.
and that day was supposed to be a day off for him, right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Why would you have sent it to him on a normal day off and expect him to get it? Is there some obligation on your day off to check email?
No, sir.
So it's very possible he wouldn't know that he had been assigned watch command duties on that, I believe, Sunday, correct?
If he wasn't there, sir, yes, it's very possible.
Okay. Just a final question about the practice that has developed about backdating, I guess, through the request to return to work forms. Are you familiar with all that?
The practice, return to work forms? Yes.
Because it looks like somebody, I guess it was Sergeant Arenas, on this date stamp 46, the tab 5, the absentee form, it looks like he signed approving the vacation hours taken on Sunday the 8th. And I guess the switching of Friday and Saturday as far as off and worked. What is the practice? Has that occurred in the department over time?
The practice of what, sir?
Of when you come back to work, backdating or correcting where there's a misunderstanding or somebody, being scheduled and not coming into work and then burning vacation or personal time? Has that been a practice in the department?
I still don't get what the question is, sir.
Well, let me ask you an example. Are you aware of an officer that went off to a Dallas Cowboys game over a weekend, and he calls in saying, you know, I'm not gonna be able to get back from Dallas in time, you know, mark me down as a vacation day. I mean, can officers do that?
As long as they notify their immediate supervisor, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. And earlier in this week, didn't Sergeant De La Rosa talk to you, at least in passing in the office, that hey, I'm gonna be off this week, the chief's, you know, been saying I need to take some time, you know, I've got too much time on the books, he thinks I'm under stress, so I'm gonna burn some vacation time this week? Do you remember any of that conversation?
I don't remember the conversation, but I know that on Monday he showed up to work, and I had long time, he had asked for vacation for Monday, and he showed up to work.
And you were surprised?
And
by
I
that.
questioned him, what are you doing here? You had requested vacation. And I believe he had something like, well, I never got a final approval from you, that's why I showed up. And at that point, I told him, if you need the vacation, by all means, take off.
Okay.
But supposedly, he understood up to Monday that he had not gotten a final approval. That's why he showed up.
Okay, one final question about this. Did Sergeant Arenas get any discipline or get in trouble in any way for approving this?
Not that I know of, sir.
Okay, I'll pass the witness.
I think now would be a good time to take lunch. It is 12:17. Can we be back at 1:15?
Yes, sir.